Welcome to Life Stories, where sometimes the loudest cries for help are the ones no one hears. Imagine risking your life to save strangers from a burning building, only to be treated like an afterthought by your own family. Not because you failed them, but because you didn't fit the polished image they wanted to parade around. This is the story of a woman who carried fire in her lungs, silence in her wounds, and a secret that could ignite in everything they thought they knew about her. It's a story about betrayal that wears a familiar face, the price of quiet strength, and what happens when the hero finally stops hiding. Stay with us, because once you learn what really happened, you'll never look at family, fame, or forgiveness the same way again. And it all begins with the night she wasn't supposed to be remembered. They didn't call me a disgrace out loud. That would have been too generous. Instead, they let it simmer, quietly, elegantly, through raised brows and brittle smiles. Every Thanksgiving dinner, every birthday toast, every family reunion in a vineyard-lit backyard became a subtle disappearing act where I, Samantha Hart, vanished in plain sight. My brother Luke, Dr. Luke Hart, future chief of internal medicine, the one with the Yale tie and surgically perfected smile, always knew just how to shine under our parents' curated lighting. I just learned how to step out of it. I was the sister who didn't go to med school, the one who left the fire department after 17 years without a proper goodbye, no press release, no retirement party, just a padded envelope mailed from Austin to Denver containing my badge, folded letter, and a truth no one had the stomach to ask about. And maybe that's what gutted me most, not the injury, not the sleepless months of rehab, but the fact that no one, not my mother with her Pinterest-perfect pies, not my father with his obsession for lineage, ever called and asked, "What happened to you?" They didn't know about the cabin fire in the Bitterroots, or the man I pulled out from beneath a collapsed timber, his body slick with blood and mine already burning from the shoulder down. They didn't know my left wrist lost mobility for almost a year, that I spent 3 months learning how to grip a toothbrush again, that I once screamed awake so loudly in a hotel room in Santa Fe that the front desk called the police. They didn't want to know, because that would require seeing me. But that night, it changed. It was a medical fundraiser at a glass-towered hotel in San Francisco. I wasn't invited. Luke was. Of course he was. He was accepting an award for some pediatric neurology paper that had gone semi-viral in medical circles. I came only because our mother had called and, for the first time in years, said, "Please, Sam, just come. It's a big night for your brother." So I came, wore a black suit jacket I hadn't buttoned in 3 years, lipstick the color of resignation, and I stayed at the edge of the ballroom near the catering staff, sipping club soda like it was armor. That's when I heard it. A man's voice, mid-conversation, trailed off as he turned and looked at me like he was seeing something he couldn't quite believe. Silver hair, eyes like worn denim. "Wait," he said slowly. Were you there? The Bridger cabin fire, 2017? My throat tightened. I didn't answer. He took a step forward, lowering his voice but not his awe. "You screamed through the mask, 'Don't go to sleep, I've got you, that was you.'" The entire room stilled. Champagne flutes paused midair. Luke, halfway through a story with a donor, froze. Our father turned with the slow stiffness of someone watching the wrong child be noticed. The man looked at me, then looked at them. "She saved my life," he said. "The fire report called her Rescue 6. I never found out her name until now." Someone clapped, hesitantly. Then others joined. Forks clinked against plates. Murmurs spiraled. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I nodded once and said, "Samantha Hart." Later that night, back in my tiny apartment above a mechanic's garage in East Austin, I unlocked the old fireproof box. Inside, a letter from the Montana State Commission, a citation for heroism, and a check. $300,000. Never cashed. I'd kept it like a relic, untouched, not out of pride, but out of something deeper. Maybe shame, maybe defiance. Maybe the belief that cashing it would mean they finally owed me something. The next morning, a message from Luke lit up my screen. "That was wild. You were amazing. Also, we're throwing a dinner for the family. Mom's making that soup you like. You should come. Dress nice." I should have known. The restaurant was candlelit and cold. a place where the walls echoed and waiters moved like ballet dancers. Luke was already there, shaking hands like a senator in training. My mother kissed both my cheeks and said softly, "Let's not make this night about the past, okay?" But halfway through dessert, between praises for Luke's upcoming residency and gentle questions about whether I was still doing that camping thing, she leaned in and whispered, "Do you still have the award money? Because Luke has this research grant that could really use a boost." The air left my lungs like smoke from a backdraft. I didn't flip the table. I didn't storm out. I just folded my napkin, smiled at the table, and said I'd think about it. That night, I pulled the check out again. It looked smaller somehow, like even its silence had been contaminated. A week later, Luke knocked on my door. No text, no warning, just him in a Patagonia vest and a bottle of wine he couldn't afford. "I need help," he said. Real help. He owed $120,000 in private poker debt, Vegas games. "Dangerous people. They'll ruin me," he whispered. "My career, my name, yours maybe. You could give me 50 just to get level again. I'll pay you back." I stared at him. At the same mouth that had told me once at age 15 that I probably wasn't built for real heroism. I asked one question. If I weren't the woman from that fire, if I were just Sam from the summer camp, the screw-up, would you still be here? He didn't answer, so I didn't either. He stood, the charm gone. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "People forget fast, Sam. Headlines fade. You'll go from hero to nobody again, just watch." Then he left. I thought that was the end of it. Until Reddit lit up. A thread titled, "My sister saves strangers but lets her own family fall apart." Thousands of comments. A photo of me from the fire, used without permission. The story spread fast. Parents started pulling their kids from my training workshops. Sponsors backed out. And through it all, Luke stayed quiet until he posted a blurry photo of himself in Vegas, drink in hand, with the caption, "Work hard, play harder." And then the fire reached my home. A break-in. My safe cracked, files missing, a note left behind, scrawled in ink that bled. If you don't know how to share, someone else will decide for you. That night I realized I hadn't survived that fire in the mountains just to burn at the hands of my own family. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who once called you family? What would you do if the person you saved became the one who tried to destroy you? The flames were never the real danger. It was the silence afterward that nearly killed me. And in part 2, you'll see exactly how I set the record and my life back on fire. It started with lilies. White, pristine, funeral suite. Delivered to my doorstep in a glass vase so heavy it nearly cracked the tile when I brought it inside. No card. Just a folded slip of paper tucked between the stems. "Family is where we return. Don't forget that." My stomach turned. I thought I had seen the worst of it, the betrayal, the theft, the Reddit smear campaign, but the flowers made something clear. This wasn't over. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control, about erasing me again, but this time with curated gestures and PR polish. A week later, another note slipped into my mailbox. Different handwriting, tighter, angrier. "You're the light, Sam. Help us find our way again." Signed, Luke. I almost laughed. What they wanted wasn't light, they wanted fuel. The invitation came next, a family meeting. No details, just a time and address. I told myself not to go, but something inside me, it wasn't hope. Not anymore. It was closer to defiance. Dared me to show up and finally see what they looked like when I didn't bend. Their living room had been rearranged like a courtroom. Every chair turned inward, every face lined with concern, pity, calculation. And seated beside my father was a man in a navy blazer holding a legal pad and a leather folio. "This is Tom," Dad said too quickly. "He's a friend. He's helping us." I didn't sit. Aunt June stood, voice trembling like she'd been rehearsing for hours. "Your brother's in trouble, Samantha. These people he owes, this isn't student loans or credit cards. They're dangerous. If he gets charged, if this goes public, it'll ruin his future, his work, his name, our name." My mother wiped at dry eyes. "He made a mistake, yes, but he's still your brother. You can't just turn your back on him. You know what it's like to face the worst, don't you?" My mouth felt full of sand. I scanned their faces, every cousin, uncle, family friend, all looking at me like I held a fire extinguisher and a lit match at once. Finally, I asked the only question I could trust myself to say. Has anyone in this room asked what it cost me, what I lost, what I live with every day? No one answered, so I gave them a deal, 20,000, enough to quiet the wolves without funding another lie. But with conditions, Luke enrolls in a licensed recovery program, and no one, ever speaks of the rest of the money again. Not to me, not to each other, not to the wind. Mom nodded too quickly. Dad looked relieved. Luke gave me a half hug I didn't return, whispering, "You're saving me again. I won't forget it." But he did. In less than 2 weeks, his Instagram told the story. A boomerang video of a flaming cocktail in a luxury Vegas suite. The caption, "Back in the game. Work hard, play harder." A woman draped over his arm like a second prize. Another post showed him at a blackjack table, grinning, sunglasses on indoors. The comments were filled with fire emojis and legend gifs. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Then I texted him 3 words, "Don't come back," and blocked the number. I thought that would be the last time I'd see his name. I underestimated how far a person can fall when they believe their family will always be their safety net. The Reddit thread returned, but this time, it had teeth. Accusations, edited screenshots, my name, my photo, and a voice recording I recognized immediately. Me, from the family dinner, saying I hadn't used the check. He'd recorded me. He'd weaponized me. I lost 3 school contracts in a single day. One parent emailed, "We can't associate with someone whose values we no longer trust." A board member called my work distracting. My inbox filled with messages from strangers debating whether I was still a hero or just another narcissist in a uniform. Then one night, I came home and knew something was off before I opened the door. The lock wasn't broken, but the energy had shifted. Inside, my files were scattered, the safe left ajar. The check was still there, barely, but 2 folders were gone. Medical records from Bridger and a notarized letter from the state commission verifying the grant. On the table, a single slip of torn notebook paper. If you won't give it, someone else will. The police came, took notes, asked the usual questions, but there were no fingerprints, no forced entry, no leads. I told them I had an idea who it was. They didn't press. And then, like a match in the dark, came the spark. An email. Subject, "We owe you more than just a medal." From Everett James, the man from the gala, the one I pulled out of the fire. He asked to meet. We sat in a weathered cafe in Austin, steam curling from our mugs. He didn't waste time. "After I saw what was happening to you, I hired a private investigator," he said, then slid a folder across the table. "I think you need to see this." Inside were photos of Luke letting a man into my apartment building, footage of him using a key, records showing forged withdrawals under my name, metadata tracing the Reddit post to a hospital server under Luke's credentials. A copy of the check with a different signature used in an attempted transfer. I stared at the stack of proof. My hands didn't shake. They burned. "I don't want to ruin him," I said softly. Everett leaned forward. "You already saved him once. He's the one lighting the match now." What would you do if telling the truth meant burning the last bridge to the people who raised you? The fire I ran from once has found me again, and this time, I'm not leaving until the smoke clears. Stay with me for what comes next. The courthouse felt colder than it should have for a Texas morning in early spring. I wore a navy suit I hadn't taken out since the last funeral. My hair was tied back, plain, tight. In my hand, a slim binder of evidence, everything Everett James and I had gathered. There were no lawyers beside me, no handlers, no family in my corner. Just me. Samantha Hart, standing in the one place no daughter ever imagines she'll stand, facing the brother she once dragged from under a collapsing barn roof when he was 10 and screaming. Luke sat across the room at the defendant's table, his body folded into himself, wearing the same slate gray suit he used to wear to award galas. His fingers tapped against his thigh like a lie trying to stay steady. Behind him sat my parents. My mother's hands were clasped too tightly in her lap. My father stared forward, jaw tight, as if bracing for a storm that might pass if he didn't blink. The judge called for silence. The trial began. The prosecutor laid out the sequence of events with precision. The unauthorized access to my apartment, the forged documents, the falsified bank transfers, the surveillance footage of Luke letting a man into my building, the link between his work laptop and the Reddit post that had nearly destroyed my career. Then came the statements from donors, 6 of them, who had unknowingly contributed thousands to a fake medical research grant Luke had fabricated. The total was over $200,000, most of it gone, some of it lost in casinos, some used to maintain the illusion of prestige he'd become addicted to. When my mother was called to testify, her voice was brittle, like glass being tapped too hard. She tried at first, tried to explain, to rationalize, to cushion the fall. But when the prosecutor showed her a screenshot of a message Luke had sent under the alias of the fake foundation, asking for money to honor the heroic legacy of a firefighter's sister, she broke. "I didn't know he'd gone this far," she whispered. "I didn't know he was this broken." They asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood. No shaking, no tears, just steel and a voice that hadn't been heard in years. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want the truth to mean something again. I want to walk through a room and not be rewritten by someone else's shame. I want to show the next girl who's ever been overlooked, used, or rewritten that silence is not grace. It's just a cage." I turned and looked at Luke. His eyes didn't meet mine. "I saved my brother once from a fire," I said. "He doesn't remember that, but I do, because I couldn't save myself that day. Today, I can." The judge ruled full restitution, 2-year suspension from practicing medicine, mandatory rehabilitation, a formal public apology to the donors and the board, no jail time, but enough to strip him of everything he once held higher than people. As the courtroom emptied, I stepped out into the sunlight. It felt warmer than it had in months. Everett was waiting, leaning against a street lamp with 2 paper cups of coffee and a box tucked under his arm. No suit this time, just jeans and a quiet steadiness I had come to trust more than words. We drove out to the training center together, the Ember Collective. It had barely survived the storm, but the community had started trickling back. Parents who once pulled their kids had returned, some with apologies folded into cookies or quiet nods. Teens signed up for fire escape courses again. I taught every class like it might be the last, because for a while it almost was. That afternoon, Everett handed me the wooden box. "It's nothing fancy," he said, "but it's steady, like you." Inside was a silver ring. No diamond, just a brushed metal band with a tiny engraving on the inside, a flicker of flame. "I thought we could build something," he said. "Not a perfect life, just an honest one." I didn't answer him right away. I just took his hand and held it. That was enough. Later that week, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was from my parents. No excuses, no manipulations. Just 4 lines. "We didn't see you. Not really, but now we want to, if you'll let us." I folded it gently and tucked it beside an old photo of me in uniform, ash streaked across my face, arms bruised, eyes lit not with pride but survival. She didn't know what was coming, but I think she'd be proud of who I became. One morning in late April, as the fog hung low over Austin, I stood on the front steps of the Ember Collective. A new group of kids was arriving, backpacks full, eyes sleepy. They would be learning fire drills today, the safe kind, the kind you can practice and walk away from. A little boy, maybe 11, ran up to me out of breath. "Miss Sam," he said, "I want to be like you when I grow up. Not a firefighter, though. I want to teach people how to not be afraid." I knelt to his level, pulled my jacket tighter against the breeze, and smiled. "Then you'll be better than me. You'll teach people how to stay." Behind me, Everett turned on the speaker for the mock drill. A recording of a smoke alarm crackled to life. But this time I didn't flinch. I turned back toward the kids, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to prove I belonged. I just did. How did this story make you feel, especially the ending? Did it resonate with something in your own life or someone you know? If you love this story, comment 100 below. Let us know what country you're watching from. We'd love to hear from all over the world. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for watching Life Stories.